After completing the front and back bodies, we move on to crocheting the edging. Let's take a look at the finished product. We start from where the front and back bodies are joined, along the bottom edge, the sides, and the front band. We work in rounds with a crochet hook, using chain stitches and reverse single crochets. Let me demonstrate the specific crochet technique. Take the corresponding yarn. Form a loose knot. Position the right side of the fabric towards you, with the cast-on row facing up, at the right side of the back body, where they're joined. Pick up the stitch like this to add the yarn. Insert the hook into the stitch. Draw the knot through. Adjust the size of the loop. Hold the yarn with your left hand. Take the hook with your right hand. Chain 1 to begin. Work a reverse single crochet at the joining point. Insert the hook into the same stitch. At the right of the beginning chain, yarn over. Draw the yarn through. You now have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over again. Draw through both 2 loops on your hook. 1 reverse single crochet is completed. Continue to the next adjacent stitch on the right. Work another reverse single crochet. Insert the hook. Draw the yarn through. Yarn over again. Draw through both 2 loops at once. Another reverse single crochet is finished. Keep going in this manner. Pick up the loops along the bottom edge of the fabric. Work reverse single crochets for each corresponding stitch until you reach the corner. Now, you've arrived at the corner. Work 3 reverse single crochets into the same stitch at the corner. 1, 2, 3. Now, take a look. Between every 2 knots along the edge, there are braids like this. These correspond to 2 rows on the fabric. Continue working reverse single crochet on each braid. Then skip 1 braid. Follow this by working 2 reverse single crochets again. Continue crocheting reverse single crochets along the side of the fabric. Skip 1 braid after every 2 braids. At the corner, work 3 in the same stitch. At the bottom edge, work 1 on each stitch. Follow this rule to complete the edging. While crocheting, you can adjust the placement of CS as needed. Just make sure the fabric stays flat. Once done, at the first reverse single crochet, work a slip stitch. Then pull to tighten. Leave about 10 centimeters of yarn tail before cutting the yarn. Thread the yarn tail into a sewing needle. Pass the needle through from this point to the wrong side of the fabric. Then, follow the texture to weave in the end neatly. And that's how you finish the edging. In my sample, I only demonstrated part of it. It's not meant for reference. If the fabric piece isn't flat, you can press it with an iron. Now, let's learn how to make the sleeves. Let's take a look at the finished product. The left and right sleeves are worked in the same way. Starting from the bottom, each sleeve is divided into two sections, the cuff and the body of the sleeve. The cuff is worked back and forth in a corresponding pattern. The body of the sleeve is made in intarsia pattern. Sew it after completing, then attach to the front and back bodies. New technique used here is yarn over. Let me demonstrate the specific knitting technique. First, cast on for the cuff. Here, we use a combination of knit and purl stitches alternately. Knit while casting on. We'll be using color 1 for actually knitting. I'll continue demonstrating with the cotton yarn. The color here is random. Tie a loose knot with the yarn end. Put it onto a circular needle. Consider this as a purl stitch. Take the other end of the circular needle with your right hand. Insert it through the loop. Knit 1. Slide the loop back onto the left needle. Place the right needle underneath the yarn. Insert it between the two loops. Purl 1. Slide the loop back onto the left needle again. The casting on is done in an alternating pattern of 1 knit and 1 purl stitch. Continue knitting in this ribbing. If the yarn tail is on the front, knit 1. If the yarn tail is on the back, purl 1. Knit down to the required number of stitches. Let's take a look. This is how it looks like when the casting on is completed. Next, we use color 1 to work the corresponding pattern for the cuff. As we've demonstrated the technique before, please refer back to the previous demonstrations. Follow the pattern chart to finish the first 14 rows. On the 15th row of the sleeve, you'll create the eyelets. I'll demonstrate how to knit the eyelets with this small sample. Since the sample has fewer rows, the pattern is random. This is just to show the technique. Start with a knit stitch, followed by a K1 TBL. Then knit a yarn over. Wrap the yarn from front to back around the right needle. This adds an extra loop to the right needle. And that's how you knit a yarn over. Next, work at SKP, O. Continue with a purl stitch and a K1 TBL. Repeat as indicated in the pattern. Knit another yarn over. Again, wrap the yarn from front to back around the right needle. And there you have another yarn over completed. Then work at SKP, O. Follow the chart too. Finish this row. Row 15 is done. Move on to row 16. Turn your work. Knit 1 followed by a P1 TBL. Repeat as indicated in the pattern. When you reach the yarn over from the previous row, simply pick up the loop and work it as a knit stitch. Continue following this method. Alternate between P1 TBL and knit. Finish this row. Row 16 is completed. The cuff is done. For the body of the sleeve, refer to the chart. Work back and forth to finish the intarsia pattern. Be mindful when working the first row, you need to increase at the corresponding points. When finished, cut off the yarn normally. Then, place the stitches on hold. Let's take a look. This is what the completed sleeve sample looks like. Since my sample has fewer and rows here, it hasn't included the intarsia pattern. Next, we sew the sleeve pieces. You need to combine 3 strands for actually sewing. Here, I continue demonstrating with 1 strand. Cut a length of yarn in corresponding color and thread it into your needle. Turn the sleeve piece so the wrong side faces you, with the end on the top. Fold the sides of the sleeve edge upwards and align them. Sew from the cuff to the body of the sleeve. The technique is the same as sewing the front and back pieces together. Once done, tie knots to secure. Hide the yarn tail into the wrong side of the fabric. Take a look. This is how the finished sleeve looks like. Now, we'll attach the sleeve to the armhole. First, align the seam of the sleeve with the seam of the front and back body. Then, align the middle of the sleeve with the shoulder seam of the front and back body. Next, choose a few points roughly evenly spaced between these 2 stitch markers and secure them. I've already anchored my sample. Now, let's start sewing. Cut a length of yarn in corresponding color and thread it into needle. Pick up loops and the horizontal strands on the side of the armhole, on the right side of the fabric. Insert the needle from front to back through the first loop on the right. Then, go from back to front through the second loop. Pull the yarn through. Now, pick up the first horizontal strand. Pull the yarn through again. Insert the needle from front to back into the loop you just came out. Then, go from back to front through the next 2 loops on the left. Pick up the corresponding strands on the other side again. Continue this way, matching each loop and strand as you sew. Finish this round. Make sure the fabric stays flat while sewing. Once you're done, remove the waste yarn. If there are still a hole at the underarm, sew a few more stitches to close it. Then, thread the yarn end to the wrong side. Tie a double knot to finish. Weave in the ends. Do the same for the other end. Now, let's take a look. This is how it looks like after the sleeve sample attached. Repeat the same process for the other sleeve. Up to this point, the tutorial of sleeve construction and attachment is done. Next, we'll add decorations, including flowers and leaves, some embroidery, ties, and button loops. First, let's crochet the flowers and leaves. For the flowers, we'll use the chain ring method to start. Then, crocheting in rounds. We'll switch colors during the process. For the leaves, we'll start with the foundation chain, crocheting around that initial chain. The new technique we need are single crochet, slip stitch, half double crochet, treble crochet, and ch1 picot. Let me demonstrate the specific crochet technique. Let's begin. Choose the corresponding color, and work with one strand of yarn in actual. I still use the cotton yarn for the demonstration here. In random color, hang the yarn on your left hand. Hold the hook in your right hand. Start by making a slip knot. This knot doesn't count as a stitch. Give it a gentle tug to tighten. Now, let's crochet chains. Crochet a total of 5 chains. Join the two ends of chains. Make sure the right side is facing you. Be careful not to twist the chains. Insert the hook into the stitch. Work a slip stitch. The slip stitch doesn't count as a stitch. Tighten it slightly. But don't pull too hard here, to avoid breaking the yarn tail. And there, the chain ring is complete. Now, move on to round 1. Make a chain stitch, serving as the beginning chain for the single crochet. The beginning chain doesn't count as a stitch. Pick up the first stitch to make a single crochet. Weave in the starting tail as you go. Then, chain 3 as a bridge. Again, pick up the next stitch and work a single crochet. Chain 3 as a bridge. In this round, you'll crochet 5 single crochets in total. Between each single crochet, chain 3 to connect. You've now completed 2 stitches. Work the remaining 3 stitches. Once done, make a slip stitch back into the first single crochet. Remember, the slip stitch doesn't count as a stitch as well. Pull tight, and there, round 1 is finished. If there's any yarn tail from casting on, feel free to cut it off. Now, move on to round 2. Chain 1 to begin. In the next chain space on the left, make 1 single crochet, 1 half double crochet, 1 double crochet, and 1 treble crochet. Yarn over twice. Insert the hook into the chain space, yarn over, draw the yarn through. There are 4 loops on your hook now. Yarn over, and pull the yarn through the first 2 loops. Repeat this 3 times. The treble crochet is completed. Then make a CH1 picket, which we'll refer to as a picket from now on. Start with 1 chain. Then pick up these 2 strands on the treble crochet. Make a slip stitch. The picket is completed. Continue crocheting in the same chain space. Work 1 double crochet, 1 half double crochet, and 1 single crochet. Consider these stitches as 1 petal. This round consists of repeating these petals. Let me demonstrate another petal for you. Pick up the next chain space on the left. Make 1 single crochet, 1 half double crochet, 1 double crochet, and 1 treble crochet. Yarn over twice. Insert the hook. Yarn over and pull through. Yarn over and pull the yarn through the first 2 loops on your hook. Repeat 3 times. The treble crochet is done. Next, make a picket. Chain 1. Then pick up 2 strands on the treble crochet. Work a slip stitch. Picket is completed. Now, in the same chain space, crochet 1 double crochet, 1 half double crochet, and 1 single crochet. Another petal is done. Continue in this manner. Crochet the remaining petals. When finished, join with a slip stitch into the first single crochet stitch. Chain 1 to secure. Leave a tail about 5 centimeters long before cutting the yarn. You'll notice that the right side of the fabric has a clear texture, while the wrong side is fuzzy. Hide the yarn tail into the wrong side of the petal. It's recommended to weave in several stitches along the texture. Then, cut any excess yarn. Round 2 is now completed. Move on to round 3. For this round, we need switch colors. Take out the new color you need. Make a loose knot. Hold the fabric with the right side facing you. Insert the hook from back to front into any chain space beneath a petal from the previous round. Then, insert the hook into the center hole. Pull the knot through. Adjust the loop accordingly. New yarn has been joined. Chain 1 to begin. Work 1 single crochet into the joining position. Chain 3 as a bridge. Then insert the hook into the next chain space on the left. And the center hole, make 1 single crochet. Again, chain 3 as a bridge. You can see that the crocheting method for this round is same as the first round. The only difference is crocheting remain on top, under the previous round's petals. Continue following this method. Complete this round. After finishing the last single crochet, chain one more. Then, pick up the first stitch of this round and make one half double crochet into it. Round 3 is finished. Move on to round 4. Chain 1 to begin. Work 1 single crochet into the half double crochet below. Chain 3 as a bridge. Then, pick up the chain space on the left and make 1 single crochet. Again, chain 3 as a bridge. Continue picking up the chain space from the previous round, and work a single crochet between each 2 single crochets, connect with 3 chain stitches. Finish this round. After completing, join with a slip stitch into the first stitch. Pull tight. Round 4 is complete. Move on to round 5. Chain 1 to begin. Pick up the chain space on the left side. Work 1 half double crochet. 1 double crochet. 2 treble crochets. One picot. Another 2 treble crochets. One double crochet. And 1 half double crochet. One petal is finished. Continue following the pattern. Finish the remaining petals. When done, join with a slip stitch into the first half double crochet. Give it a gentle tug to tighten. Secure with another chain stitch. Leave a tail of about 30 centimeters before cutting the yarn. Round 5 is now completed. The flower is finished. Continue crocheting the corresponding number of flowers using this method. Refer to the chart for the exact quantity. Now, let's work on the leaves. Chain 9. Then, chain another 1 to begin. Make a single crochet into the upper loop of the second chain from the hook. Continue picking up the upper loops of chain stitches on the left. Make 2 half double crochets. Four double crochets. And 1 half double crochet. At the last chain stitch, work a half double crochet, a double crochet, a picket, and another half double crochet. Let's take a look. On the other side of the starting chain, there are 2 strands of yarn left. Next, pick up those 2 remaining yarn strands of the second chain stitch. Work a half double crochet. As you crochet, place the starting yarn tail over the hook. Weave it in as you go. The stitches on this side should mirror those on the other side. Crochet into each corresponding stitch. Continue evenly like this. 4 double crochets. Two half double crochets. And 1 single crochet. Then make a slip stitch into the first single crochet stitch. Tighten. Secure with a chain stitch. Leave a 30 cm yarn tail before cutting. If there's any remaining yarn tail from casting on, you can cut it directly. And that's 1 leaf completed. Continue with the same method for the remaining leaves. Refer to the pattern for the exact number. Next, attach the flowers and leaves. Let's look at the finished product. Sew them onto the center of the diamond pattern made with color 2. Randomly choose colors for 3 flowers. Arrange them in a triangular shape. Sew a leaf between each flower. Ensure each leaf tip points outward. The ending position should face the center of the diamond. Refer to the finished product for quantity ideas, or adjust according to your preference. Now, I'll demonstrate the sewing technique with this small sample. First, secure the flower's position with a stitch marker. Thread the yarn tail through a sewing needle. Sew along the wrong side of the last round of petals on the fabric piece. There's no fixed sewing method here. Be mindful not to pull the yarn too tightly to avoid breaking the yarn tail. After completing 1 round of sewing, tie a double knot on the wrong side of the fabric. Weave in the yarn tail. And there, the flower is sewn in place. Cut a length of sewing thread. Thread it through a suitable size gold-eyed needle. Start by sewing 2 stitches on the wrong side of the flower, at the corresponding position to secure it. Then, bring the needle out from the center of the flower. Thread a pearly bead onto the needle. Sew around this position 2 more times to fix it in place. The pearly bead is now attached. Tie a double knot on the wrong side of the fabric. Weave in the yarn tail. Continue sewing on the remaining flowers with this method. And attach the pearly beads as well. Now, it's time to sew on the leaves. First, mark the positions as shown earlier with stitch markers and secure the leaf. Make sure the right side of the leaf is facing up. Once you've positioned the leaf correctly, thread the reserved yarn tail into your needle. Sew along the starting chain of the leaf to the corresponding position on the fabric. Once done, remove the stitch marker. Tie a double knot on the wrong side of the fabric. Weave in the ends. And there, the leaf is attached. Follow the same process for the rest of the leaves. Up to this point, we've covered how to make and attach both flowers and leaves. Next, let's move on to embroidery. Let's take a look at the finished product. Embroider stripes in the middle of the diamond pattern in color 1. On these flower branch positions, embroider the branches and the flower centers. On these individual flowers, embroider the pistils. For the wreath consisted of small flowers. Add leaves with embroidery. Now, let me demonstrate the embroidery technique. Let's start with the stripes. Actually, we use 2 strands of yarn for actually embroidering. I'll continue demonstrating with a single cotton yarn. First, locate any diamond pattern in color 1, using a water-soluble pen. Draw 2 intersecting lines like this in the center of the diamond. I've already marked my sample. Thread the yarn end through the darning needle. On the wrong side of the fabric, at any side of one of the diamonds, roughly in the middle, so to secure it in place. Then, come out from the middle of that side. Follow the marked line. Insert the needle approximately 1 centimeter apart. And come out again about 1 centimeter apart. Continue this method to embroider these stripes. When you reach the middle of the diamond, insert the needle through the center. On the wrong side, pick up a strand and sew to secure. Then, come out from the center. Keep going with the 1 centimeter intervals. Embroider 1 centimeter long stripes like this until you reach the middle of the opposite side. Once completed, tie a double knot on the wrong side. Weave in the ends neatly. With the same method, embroider the other stripe. And there you have finished the stripes in this diamond pattern. Continue in this way, except for the diamond patterns at the sleeve connection points. For the remaining areas, embroider the stripes on each diamond pattern in color 1. The diamonds on the front band edges are only half-sized, so just embroider the stripes on this half with the same method. Pay attention to the contrasting colors between adjacent diamonds. The stripe color are different. You can refer to the finished product, or follow your personal preference. Finish the rest of the stripes. Next, at the position with 2 flowers and 1 bud, embroider the branches using stem stitch. You can first draw a rough guide for the branches with a water-soluble pen. Then, embroider with 2 strands of thread combined. I still demonstrate with cotton yarn here. Cut about 1 meter of the corresponding color thread. Thread it through the embroidery needle. Start at the upper right corner of the flower, at the corresponding point on the side of the diamond, on the wrong side of the fabric, so to secure it in place. Then, come out roughly where the flower's right upper corner is. Give it a gentle tug to tighten. Follow the curve of the branch, inserting the needle about 1 centimeter away. Go back about half the distance. Exit on the left. Tighten it slightly. Continue by inserting the needle about 1 centimeter away from this exit point. Go back about half the distance again. Exit on the left, which means exiting from the same insertion point. Give it a gentle tug to tighten. This is how you do stem stitch. When you reach the flower, carry the yarn across on the wrong side of the fabric. Come out at the corresponding position below the flower. Continue with this method. Embroider the branch. Once completed, carry the yarn across on the wrong side of the fabric again, at the corresponding spot above the flower. Embroider the branch for the bud. Finish by sewing a couple of stitches on either side of the bud as the calyx next. Then tie a double knot on the wrong side of the fabric. Weave in the yarn tail. The branches for this diamond is completed. Now, move on to the center of the flowers. Embroider this part with a single stand, with a random color. First, roughly sketch the shape of the flower center with a water-soluble pen. Cut a length of the corresponding color yarn and thread it through a sewing needle on the wrong side of the fabric. Stitch 2 stitches to secure at the corresponding position. Then, come out from the center of the flower. Following the marked position, stitch about 10 evenly spaced lines, each about 1 centimeter long, towards the edges. After completing the stitching, tie a double knot on the wrong side of the fabric. The flower center is finished. Continue in this method. Embroider branches and centers onto the corresponding areas. Next, we work on the pistil in the middle of this individual flower. It consists of the lines and French knots. Let's start with the lines. Sketch the approximate position of the line with a water-soluble pen. Embroider with a single strand on the wrong side. Secure it with 2 stitches at the corresponding spot. Then, bring the thread out from the center of the flower. From the center, stitch about 10 threads evenly around, each about 2 centimeters long. Once done, tie a double knot. Weave in the ends neatly. The lines is now completed. Moving on to the French knots. Cut a length of the contrasting color yarn and thread it onto your needle. Secure it with 2 stitches on the wrong side of the fabric also. Then, come out from the top of the lines. Give it a gentle tug to tighten. Next, wrap the yarn around the needle 6 times. Be careful not to pull the yarn too tight here. A little looseness makes it easier to work. Hold the yarn tail securely with your left hand. Insert the needle into the adjacent loop vertically. Make sure the needle goes straightly. At this point, gently support this loop on the wrong side with your left index finger and middle finger. Give it a gentle tug to tighten. But don't pull it all the way through. And there, you've embroidered a French knot. Now, carry the yarn across on the wrong side of the fabric. Embroider another French knot at the top of the adjacent line. Pull out the needle. Again, wrap the yarn around the needle 6 times. Insert the needle into the adjacent loop vertically. Use your left hand to support the loop from underneath. Give it a gentle tug to tighten. But don't pull it all the way through. Another French knot is done. Continue in this way. Embroider a French knot at the peak of each flower center. Finish this round. Once done, tie a double knot to secure. The pistil is completed. Follow this method. Embroider the pistils onto the remaining flower patterns. Next, we'll work on the leaves. Locate a group of small flowers like these between every 2 small flowers. Embroider leaves with a lazy daisy stitch. In reality, we use 2 strands of yarn combined. For demonstration, I'll continue with a single cotton yarn. Cut a length of about 1 meter of your corresponding color yarn. Thread it through a sewing needle. First, sew 2 stitches on the wrong side, secure it. Then, bring the needle out between the small flowers. Give it a gentle tug to tighten. Now, go back through the fabric at the exit point. Head outward, approximately 2 centimeters away from the point. Be mindful the distance from the thread end will determine the leaf's length. Press the thread with the needle like this. Pull the thread through. Give it a little adjustment. Insert the needle outside the loop to secure it. And there, one leaf is embroidered. Next, carry the yarn across on the wrong side. Come out between the adjacent flowers. Go back down through the fabric at the exit point. Again, head outward, approximately 2 centimeters away from the point. Press the yarn under the needle. Pull it through. Give it a slight adjustment. Secure it by inserting the needle outside the loop. Another leaf is done. Continue this way. Embroider a leaf between each 2 flowers. When you're done, tie a double knot on the wrong side. Weave in the ends. And that completes the leaves for this pattern. Follow this method from here. For every small flower group, embroider leaves. Up to this point, the tutorial embroidery is finished. Next, we'll crochet the tie. You can actually use contrasting color yarns with any remaining 2 bobbins together. Each bobbin has 2 strands combined. In this demonstration, I'm using 2 cotton yarns with random color. Take any yarn and leave about 10 centimeters. Form a loose knot. Hang the yarn on your left hand. Pick up the crochet hook with your right hand. Insert the hook into the knot. Make a slight adjustment. Also leave about 10 centimeters on the other yarn. Wrap it onto the hook. Be careful not to pull this yarn too tightly. Yarn over and draw through both loops. Wrap the second yarn again. Yarn over and draw through these 2 loops. Keep going like this. Until you reach the desired length. Refer to the pattern chart for specifics. When finished, leaving about 10 centimeters tail of each yarn before cutting. Pull them out and tighten. Leave the ends at the beginning and end for now. The tie is now completed. Let me demonstrate how to attach it with this sample. Thread one end of the tie into a needle. Take out the cardigan, locate the seam on the sleeve edge. Fold it neatly at that point. Find 2 holes on the other side of the seam. Insert the yarn needle into the left hole. Come out through the adjacent hole on its left. Then, go into the next hole. Follow this way. Pass through all the holes. It should exit precisely from the folded spot. From the right side hole. Thread the yarn end into a suitable sized gold-eyed needle. Sew a pearly button onto the end of the tie. There's no fixed sewing method here, just make sure it's securely attached. Once done, tie both yarn tails in a double knot. Weave in the ends neatly. Do the same to weave in the other end. Then, also attach a pearly button at the other end of the tie with the same technique. When finished, adjust the cuff size according to your preference. Tie a bow. The tie is attached. In the same way, crochet and attach the second tie. Next, make and sew the buttons. Let's take a look at the finished product. It consists of button loops and pearly buttons. The button loops are symmetrically sewn below the front band, with 3 groups on each side. The top one roughly aligns with the starting point of the front band. The bottom one is about 12 centimeters from the bottom edge of the cardigan. The middle one is equidistant from the top and bottom ones. First, make and attach the button loops. Then, install the pearly buttons at corresponding positions on the left front piece. Let me demonstrate the specific steps. The crochet method for the button loops is the same as the ties, except you leave a tail of about 20 centimeters on both ends. Refer to the pattern chart for the exact length. I've already crocheted a sample. Now, thread one end of the button loop into a needle. Then, fold the button loop in half. Using overcast stitch, sew through symmetric loops from the 2 ends. Make sure not to twist it. Leave about 1 centimeter unsewn from the folding position. Create a loop like this. Take the yarn tail to the wrong side. Tie a double knot. Weave in the ends neatly. Attach the button loop to the corresponding spot on the cardigan with a stitch marker. Thread the remaining tail into the needle. Pick up the topper loops on the button loop and sew it to the corresponding spot on the cardigan. There's no fixed sewing method for this, just make sure it's sewn securely. After completing, tie a double knot on the wrong side of the fabric. Hide the yarn tail. Thread the other yarn end into the needle. Sew symmetrically on the opposite piece. Hide the last yarn tail. The button loop is now attached. Next, sew a pearly button at the center hole of the button loop. Cut a length of sewing thread. Insert a gold-eyed needle of appropriate size. Come out from the center hole of the button loop. Sew securely at this spot. Tie a double knot. Weave in the end of the thread. And there you have it, the pearly button is attached. Follow this method for the remaining button loops and pearly buttons. Up to this point, we've completed the tutorial on how to make this cardigan. If you have any questions during the process, don't hesitate to reach us via our website, Susan's Family, supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.